All right, hello and welcome. We're back for the historic Pauper FNM that is on Arena this evening. Although I'm not quite sure when this will get posted due to various upload speeds and my own editing, etc. But we've had a few changes since last time, but nothing significant. Jumpstart did add a lot to the format, and I think that it's going to have an impact in the future. But right now, I don't think that cards like Explorer, Llanowar Visionary, Seagate Oracle, Chromatic Sphere are going to have a huge impact. I've played a few games of this new format already, and most of the difference between or since last time is in the addition of Phyrexian Rager in Jumpstart. Beyond that, there's no significant changes to the format. We're playing a few new cards in cycling. I decided that one Suffocating Fumes was correct as a replacement over fungal infection. I felt like going wide was better as an instant speed answer that cycles. It provides a slightly more flexible answer when you have to play against a control deck of some sort, and that's what I was looking for. Because this format is right now exclusively best of one, you need a deck that can hit all the right notes to kill off the four main pillars of the format. The four main pillars, just briefly, if you're new to this, you can check out my other videos, but the four main pillars are Burn, which is obviously a very low to the ground, fast deck that you need to make sure that you're pushing back against. Cards like Moment of Craving and even Eternal, which is the pillar of this deck, are some of the best answers to it. Second, Hexproof is one of the greatest threats to the format. Against that, we have Farika's Libration, which is a typical answer. You make them sacrifice the hexproof creature. We also have Bladebrand, which is the secret tech of this deck, as they don't have a great way of giving their creature first strike. So Death Touch will at the very least burn a Karametra's Blessing, if not kill off their creature. I've killed so many hexproof creatures by surprise. I'll go over more of the deck as we play it, and it'll hopefully make sense. There's a lot of one-ofs. We also have some murders hiding down here, and then a mix of 2 Toll of the Invasion and 1 Memory Leak in our discard suite. Memory Leak was one addition that I do like. I was trying to figure out the correct number because cycling obviously makes it very flexible. And you want Memory Leak in the control mirrors. And also sometimes against Hexproof. You want it on turn 3 if they don't have a Hexproof creature because their Hexproof creatures are on turn 4. Then we've just got a typical weird creature suite, of which even Eternal is the all-star. You'll understand once we start playing this. As you can see, I've already picked up a few wins. There's one particularly good mirror earlier, but hopefully we'll get in some good games now. So you probably haven't seen this deck. This is the other third pillar of the format. In control, you need a control deck though that can actually handle both hexproof, other control decks, and burn at the same time, which is very difficult. This hand is fine. Omen of the Sea will help us get wherever we're going. We have some removal, we have some card draw. So the difficulty, okay, so we're playing against burn. So we need a fast start. We need, if we can get it, we need Moment of Craving. That's going to be the biggest defining element. Oh, interesting. Red-white. So this is probably going to be, what do they have in red-white? This is probably a new deck. I have not seen Forbidden Friendship yet. This is interesting given that Cavalcade is not a card in this format. Since they're not going to do anything, we'll take a look at this. We need lands, but we don't need both of these. Because otherwise we're just going to stall out and we're not going to be able to kill anything, as we need to find a way to stop Scorchspitter. This is extremely inelegant, and we might just end up getting run over. This is something that happens. Ideally, I think we're looking for Suffocating Fumes right now. And the question is, do we want to jam Seekers of the Golden City or Omen of the Sea? I like Omen of the Sea a little bit over Opt, by the way. Just because the extra Scry 2 on the back end is worth the extra mana. The only time it becomes a major hindrance, because of how long this deck goes, is when you hit... Alright, we have to push both of these right now because we're looking for either black mana, Suffocating Fumes, anything like that. The only time it's a problem is Ancestral Mask is templated the way a lot of old cards are, and they count not just things you control, but things you don't control. So, unfortunately, against Hexproof, Omen of the Sea is a little bit of a liability in that it will add +2/+2 to the creature wearing the Ancestral Mask. But for the most part, you can take one mask hit, and if they hit you a second time with mask, you're dead anyway. So the extra +2/+2 or any other number doesn't really matter. The fact that they're not playing anything, I'm not quite sure what this deck is. I've never seen anything quite along these lines. I think that we should just go with this. We need a Moment of Craving, as that'll buy us many, many turns. And it's also adding up to where else we're trying to go in this. We definitely don't need the land. I do want the Aven Eternal if I can get it. The question is it fast enough right now? I think it's probably fast enough, and we're going to go to 9, and I think that we can drag ourselves out of this. We're going to get to cast Blade Brand as one of our cards on their creature. We'll do it probably during combat just so nothing weird happens. So this is going to be an issue. Yeah, we'll do it during combat. But I fully expect us to get run over. We're going to get Trumpet Blasted out of this game. It was a combination of mana not working and the deck not going any particular place. I guess this is Red-White Adventures. I've played against Red-White decks before, and they actually have a lot of staying power with Ragehound from Theros. 5 is fine. I don't expect this deck to have a lot of reach. I expect that they're mostly going to be dead if we find a Suffocating Fumes, although as a one of, it's not something you should count on. Finally, we find this, and hopefully we can survive this. We're hopefully going to get a nice... opponent's good gaming us. They probably have a reason to do that. How delightful. Well, it doesn't really matter what happens, so we're killing this. Let's do the math. We go to 6. Yeah, we're dead. We don't need to go through it. Okay, so that was unfortunate, but it happens sometimes. You can't have all the perfect answers, and it is best of one. In another game, if we play Aven Eternal on 3, there's very little that they can actually do about it, because it'll just sit there and gum up the board by building 2 creatures. So talking about Aven Eternal for a second. Aven Eternal is the secret card in this deck because so much of the format, at least on the aggro side, is built around X1s. Let's keep this. Again, this is a fairly solid hand. It's the reason why Skeleton Archer is in this deck, because there's so many X1s that it's worth having a single Skeleton Archer. I know there's an awful lot of one-ofs. We're playing... Oh. Okay, we're playing Mono Black. Mono Black is a so-so matchup. The reason that it's so questionable, and I have to figure out what I'm going to do about Dusk Legion, is because mostly of Ill-Gotten Inheritance, that most decks don't have a good answer. We have a recurring libation that we can use with Freka's Libation and recurring it with Salvager. I want to develop the board. These days they've got Phyrexian Rager and they have Reaper, but I can't counter Reaper with Essence Scatter, really. I think I'm just going to leave this and they can have the card. There's better things to be doing with Essence Scatter. But it'll usually come down to a fairly aggressive endgame where whoever top decks better wins. So we're going to make use of our Memory Leak here, as usually they've got 1 or so good cards. So the question is, do we want Ill-Gotten Inheritance here, or do we just want Foreboding Fruit? I think I like Fruit here. The removal doesn't matter. We just 2-for-1 them all day. The biggest issue is going to be how many answers we have to Inheritance. But I think I want to slow them down right now. even though it would take them 2 turns, it's still going to take them a couple turns to get to that. They're going to have to play Witch's Cottage for no advantage. And life matters a little bit. Life only matters really for the clock that it sets up. Let's see. Do I get to make them waste a turn? I do. But I think I'm just going to toll them first, because this will, again, it's a nice clean 2-for-1. There's no point in me spending the libation when I don't have to, especially when they have no relevant cards in their deck other than Ill-Gotten Inheritance. The only time that it becomes a problem is we get into a top deck war and they kill us with Reaper. Yeah, none of these cards matter. So the fourth pillar of the format, going back to my original conversation, which I know gets a little roundabout sometimes, is mono black. And it's the grindy deck that's just going to get advantage and kill off all of your relevant threats and sweep all of your little guys, kill your big threats. Doesn't matter. It's going to be doing something. So we just want to trade. Actually, we don't want to trade. There's nothing they can do that's a 2-for-1 right now. So we'll take the 1, and we'll make them spend 2 removal spells, given that we're about to Skeleton Archer their guy. And there's nothing relevant I can Skeleton Archer otherwise. Yeah, all right. They're actually just going to do the job for us. So I'm going to hold back the Skeleton Archer because he really isn't worthwhile just to deal a damage right now. And we're going to play Draw Go. That's something you have to learn how to do with this deck. It's going to win most of the Draw Go games unless we flood out. And even if we flood out, you can usually draw Secrets of the Golden City at the end and be fine. I'm going to leave Omen. Nah, it's not worth it. The nice thing about Omen of the Sea also is that it's a permanent for Secrets of the Golden City, which is incredibly useful going into the later game. It's better here. I'm on 5 lands. It's better here to lead on Secrets, just to go up a card. And then we can, if we hit a land, we'll just carry on through with Avon. And if we don't hit a land, then we'll have Essence Scatter up if we feel like that's necessary. So again, we're just about generating advantage against Murder, Libation, etc. None of these cards actually do anything against us. They're playing a 2-for-1 game. We're just going to play a better one. They're going to Libation us in response, which is fine. Ironically, the card this deck has the toughest time playing against is Pacifism, because you can pacify the zombie army, and there actually are very few creatures that have enough oomph to get through, because then you just keep making a larger zombie and none of your other cards. Yeah, this is a problem. So we're going to need to kill the Reaper when we get around to it. I don't like Moment of Craving. Libation versus Essence Scatter. We're going to counter the Reaper. So I think that I actually want to discard Skeleton Archers at this point. We'll play Draw Go. That was an unfortunate but fine draw. It means that I also get to be a little more flexible with how I Essence Scatter versus Murder. And we'll have to be wary of Witch's Cottage going into the middle and end game. Really, the trick here is just getting up to 10 permanents. Once we get up to 10 permanents, everything becomes a lot simpler with Secrets, as they can't overcome the 3-for-1s. I'm surprised that this deck actually isn't playing Memory Leak. It seems like it's perfect for what they're doing over there. I'm going to counter this just to prevent the 2-for-1. The 1 damage isn't terribly significant, but I want to slow the opponent down a little bit. And I, at this time, have Murder, which lines up very nicely with Reaper. Oh, I passed the turn. Oh, well, that's fine. We're okay. But that was sloppy of me. I should have just been able to libation and then have all of this up. Where are we at? We're at 4 8s. So another couple turns. So the reason I'm playing cancels now is because I used to play Didn't Say Please, Dream Collapse, I think is the other one. The counter target spell for blue 1 and mill 3 for the opponent. The problem is that it doesn't work anymore because the red-green monsters deck is a tier 2 deck now, and it plays Loathsome Chimera. So you're actually just feeding the chimeras and feeding the graveyard. It used to be a very legitimate way to deck your opponent, especially in control mirrors. But I'm not the biggest fan of it anymore. So we'll just kill this and we'll move on. And now we'll 2-for-1 them. Another thing that I really like is with Aven Eternal that it provides 2 permanents, which again we're just trying to get to secrets once to get the City's Blessing. So they're probably on 4 to 5 removal spells if they're not playing creatures. The deck only plays typically 10 creatures. It used to be a slightly different suite. It used to be 4 Dusk Legion Zealot, and then it probably plays 4 Phyrexian Rager now if this person is actually updated. Not a lot of people pay attention to this format, which I'm sure everyone has noticed if you're watching this video. And then they usually play about 2 Reapers, because Reaper is a little slow. Pauper is actually a very fast format right now, or at least it requires a lot of interaction early on, whether it's against burn or a hexproof creature being set up or something of that nature. So I expect that they have a significant number of removal spells. And they also know their life total doesn't matter at all. Interesting. I would have expected they'd take the damage, but... or wouldn't take the damage, that they would have done something else, yeah. This deck is very much about nickel and diming them all the way down to 0. Alright, well, they're down to 2 cards, and I don't think they can be relevant, given that we're on a couple counterspells here. A lot of counterspells. Really what I need right now is Omen of the Sea into Secrets, because that would give me the right permanent count. Almost the right permanent count. It's technically not a relevant card, but I want to slow them down just a little bit. I think it's going to be fine at this stage. Like, it's a little aggressive of me to counter that, and I might regret it, but it's one of those plays that I think is defensible here. We've got a good board stall that favors us right now, and I'd like to keep that for a little bit, and Fruit would allow them to get a bit ahead. But I will probably let the next... actually, that isn't true. I was going to say I was going to let the next Legion Zealot resolve or something like that, but I don't think that's correct. Let's see. What would I shuffle in if I were shuffling stuff in? I would shuffle in some of these cards, so we'll take a moment and do that. We obviously... maybe we don't want to shuffle in cards. The reason we don't want to shuffle in cards is because we could draw our Salvager. And because we could draw Salvager, I think that just holding here is fine. The reason I also like Cover Up, even though it matters a little bit less here, because there's already another Reaper in the yard. Right on schedule. I'm not going to try for anything right now, but I'm just going to straight up recur Secrets, because we want it for next turn. We'll just pass. We technically have 10 permanents, but with 4 cards in hand, there's no way they don't have a removal spell. And they can gain a bunch of life, and it doesn't matter. That is one of the frustrating things against Mono Black, that the matchups just take a long time. And it's it's the control mirror you see the most often. I probably care enough to counter this. I would like Omen of the Sea. I would like Skeleton Archers. Actually, no, it's 4 cards. I'd like Skeleton Archers, and I would like both cancels. The reason it's that selection is because we have Recover for the Salvager, and I would like a higher density of good cards in the deck. This is obviously a little bit more magnified later in the game. Oh, that's convenient. We also don't have a land here. So in this case, I'm just going to Salvager and recover the Devious Cover-Up. But as you can see, it's very much just grind mono black out, and we're just much better at doing this because more of their deck relative to ours is removal, because we decided that flex slots were a better option. And those flex slots are things like Essence Scatter, which I think is actually pretty good in this format because of how well it interacts with both the control decks if they're playing a giant hexproof threat. I've seen some blue-black decks wrongly, I'll say this from my perspective, wrongly playing Megalodon. So I like Recover over Forever Young just because it allows you to net the extra card that isn't the creature. And I like that flexibility. We're at 7 cards, so I'm going to leave this here just to make sure that we have cover up in case something goes very wrong. But it shouldn't at this point. We can't find lands, and that's a little frustrating. We should easily win, but at the same time, it's a little annoying. And we'll just start this little loop, and there's nothing they can really do about it. If they have Obnixlus's Cruelty to exile this one, we've got our other Salvager in the yard. And this weird little combo, which obviously takes a lot of mana, is quite effective. I think I'm just going to discard to hand size here. I don't see a reason to do anything. And Moment of Craving is the least flexible card here. They can have fruit now. That's fine. I might consider fighting them a little bit. It would be ideal if they played something like a Zealot or a Phyrexian Rager right now, because then we could counter it and no one would really care. That's fine. The nice thing with this deck is, for the most part, when people are killing your creatures, you just get to say that's fine and everything's good. So now we've got the City's Blessing, but we're still a little bit out there in terms of cards. I'd like to wait until I can actually play a land on the same turn that I play Secrets. Otherwise, I'm just discarding. Actually, wait. Nah, this is fine. I was saying I should have recovered, but it's fine. It's become a lot harder to disrupt this deck. I used to play Clear the Mind, but now with Mystic Sanctuary, which has ruined so many formats, it's a lot easier just to play one Devious Cover-Up and one Recover and just have everything go your way. So let's draw a bunch of cards. All right, that wasn't exactly where I was going in life, but that's acceptable. I'll take a Salvager. And I'll recur Secrets because we're still trying to get to some things. So I'll discard now. It doesn't really matter if we discard because we're going to go through most of our graveyard and library over time. I don't think I need more blue sources, so I can afford to discard some lands, and I don't need Bladebrand. So this is where you get to the point where we have all of our secrets, which is funny given one's on top, are in the deck, and we're only at 28 cards. So we're going to start rolling through them really quickly. It's wasteful to play this, but I want to get things going here, and we want Aven Eternal. Doesn't really matter what order it is, but it technically hides some of the stuff from them. My turn. I'll play the land, play the Aven. Since I've already played a land this turn, I'm just going to play this and grab Recover, and then ship it over to them. And then they'll spend 4 of their cards killing my guys, and we'll move back. And we'll keep doing this. I'm sorry that I introduced you to such a grindy matchup here, but when it's working, this is what the deck looks like. It's extremely resilient to a lot of different threats, which I think is very difficult in this format, as a lot of decks need to get lucky in order to win. And I don't think this deck, of all the decks, needs to get as lucky. It's got a number of diverse answers to hexproof. It's got a solid opening with early creatures and removal against mono red. It's got answers to both enchantments, and it doesn't care about the truckload of removal here because it's got a recursion engine from mono black. And it also beats the mirror because of my mix of counter spells and Toll of the Invasion and how I generate card advantage. The only time that I lose is I actually do have a blue-black deck that beats this blue-black deck. And it's a deck that, I think fungal infection too. We don't really care about fungal infection. We'll just recur all of our stuff next turn. And we can take a point of damage. The reason that this deck sometimes can't beat other blue-black decks is there's just too many counter spells. That you can just load up that deck to beat all the other control decks, but it's not worthwhile. There aren't enough control decks right now because of the popularity of hexproof and the popularity of mono black. I've been trying to convince people for a long time that this is the right engine, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. We'll scry since we don't actually care about this permanent. And at this point, we just want some lands. I'd love to have Explore in this deck, as I think that's a card that I'm looking forward to more in the future, but I don't think that it's well placed in the format right now. I don't think there's a deck that actually can play Explorer and actually make use of the lands, other than potentially red-green. So they're at 23 and we're at 24. Somehow they're actually beating us on cards right now. That's fine. Take Recover. And we'll pass because we don't need to discard at this point. There's no point in... Actually, wait. We're at 8 lands? I mean, I could go get Salvager right now, but I'd rather not. They'll just spend another card killing this, and their damage doesn't matter. This deck will turn the corner pretty fast and put 5 to 6 power on the board and then attack over a course of a couple turns once it gains total control. And once we grind them 100% out of cards, then they just have so many bad draws and it doesn't matter. They probably have Mephitic Vapors, so I'm actually not going to block. The 1 point doesn't matter. There's nothing in their deck that makes it matter. Gets annoying over time. We still have our Skeleton Archer somewhere. So we're at 7 cards. The question is, do we want to recover this coming turn, or do we want to do something else? I think we just want to recover. They're at 2 cards now, so we're... there's good old Skeleton-y. Exactly what the doctor ordered. We got a land, and where does this leave us? This would leave us on 2 mana, which I'm unwilling to do right now. One of the other cute tricks in this deck, which very rarely comes up, is you can Blade Brand in response to the trigger here and give it Death Touch just so it becomes, you merge these into a murder, which is quite nice. It was not why I put this in the deck. This was just how can I find another option to beating Hexproof, especially in games where the Hexproof player has multiple creatures. Let's see. Let's just crack in and keep going. At a certain point, if we are worried, we can recur Aven Eternal or something else to make sure that we've got the right mix of stuff. I'm going to draw 3 here just to keep it going and find a land. I think I'd rather discard Blade Brand right now, just because it doesn't do anything. I'll keep Omen. I don't need Murder because I've got 2 Essence Scatters, and it seems like this deck actually did not update with Jumpstart. I would expect to see a Phyrexian Rager by now. We do have to be worried about decking ourselves, but we do have Devious Cover-Up in conjunction with Salvager. We can gain approximately 12 extra turns, assuming that we stop drawing cards, because between Devious Cover-Up, 1 Salvager, because we only have 1 at this point to recur with that, and the second Mystic Sanctuary, we'll gain a number of turns. So I don't expect to get decked, and against a deck without Devious Cover-Up, I expect that we could deck them if we just stop playing right now. And that is a legitimate strategy against blue-black, but it's not something that I really want to try here. We'll keep a land. There's, at this point, very few things matter, and we can just reshuffle a bunch of counter spells. So, as you can see, we're starting to turn the corner a little bit here. I will recur the other Salvager, though, just to put more stuff on the table. I'd imagine they're probably holding lands at this point. And we'll discard Moment of Craving. We're at the point where I'd consider murdering my own creatures if they had another Tendrils, just to slow down, just to get the game over with. It's worth activating here because it doesn't serve any other purpose. I'm going to keep Libation. It might seem like a weird choice, but what it does is allows me not to spend a counterspell on an Ill-Gotten Inheritance. It just makes it a dead card for them. Play this, attack them down to 23. We're getting to the point where I can just counter every single relevant spell they play. I think it's probably worth pushing through at this point. I played a land for this turn. I'm going to give it 1 more turn, and then I'm going to start recurring the Aven Eternals. Or I'm going to recur 1 of them, I should say. Yeah, it's the right time to recur stuff at this point, because now it becomes a like 2.5 turn clock, and there's pretty much nothing they can do. If we draw a land, that would be excellent. I don't want to use our Mystic Sanctuary quite yet, just because it's a little too valuable. I'll just straight up discard. I think I can discard Essence Scatter here, as weird as that sounds. I don't quite want to recur things because what I want to be recurring is actually the cancels. And if they want to play Mephitic Vapors to kill my token, that's fine. I will counter the second one, obviously, as that would just stop my clock pretty cold. I want to save this for the cancels or for the Devious Cover-Up, just so we can keep going through that in case of an emergency, so to speak. This is the reason I also don't like Vapors. I think that Fumes is just much better as both an instant and something you can cycle. Well, that was a hard-fought victory. Mono Black is... I don't think that there's any deck that I'm less than... that my win percentage is less than 50%. But Mono Black is definitely one that's a dangerous deck. Simply because the combination of card advantage and Ill-Gotten Inheritance means that it's going to play a very long game against you, and it sometimes just gets too far ahead with Ill-Gotten Inheritance and you don't have answers. All right, so we're on the play, and we've got Moment of Craving, and whoop. I'm sorry. Let me try this again. Hopefully this is back to working. Excellent. Let's see. So I don't think the only thing that I could be worried about is hexproof. All right, blue-green. That probably means hexproof. Given that I'm actually going to skip a turn and play this just so I can toll them, because they actually do not have a 2-drop hexproof creature. Yeah, this is hexproof. So hexproof can be a little bit questionable at times. Being on the play is so huge because you get to toll them for... Yes. Being on the play is huge because the first hexproof creature they can play is a 3-drop. And the non-hexproof creatures usually end up dying to murder and some other stuff. There's blue-green and green-white. I think that green-white is more consistent, but blue-green has a huge upside with the fact that you also have unblockable creatures and you have some additional little tricks with occasionally you have counter spells, and you have I think a better lineup of creatures, but Karametra's Blessing from white is incredibly strong and something that I'm always terrified of. So let's see. We're again on the play. This hand is medium, but I think it's going to be fine. Obviously, we're a little soft to burn right now, but I think that we could play against burn. Okay. Mono white is a deck that will steal games, but I think is solidly a tier 3 deck. It just doesn't have the punch it needs to... Oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is the black-white life gain deck. The reason is it just doesn't have enough stuff. It sits there, it doesn't gain card advantage. It just hopes it has a guy that goes the distance. And often it doesn't have a thing that goes the distance. It has no real payoffs. It just plays guys. And that's something that I'm not a huge fan of in the current meta. We'll see if we want to cycle that later. So we're just going to set up and play a really long game, because without reach, in terms of burn reach, the deck isn't very good. And if they give me an opportunity to block, I'll block. It doesn't really matter. I would like to see what they're cooking with, just in case. Oh, they're playing Epicure of Blood. So yeah, that was actually a perfect draw right there. It allows a nice bit of flexibility on this turn. They're playing Grasping Thrall. Oh, all right. They'll probably Bazooka Bog us at some point, so we might want to get Salvager out. Let's see, they're on 4 lands, so they get to play whichever one next. I don't really fancy fighting the flyer. Like, the extra card is annoying, but no, we can play against the flyer. Let's play against the flyer and not worry about it. We take 2 on this next turn because I don't want to chump. And then we get to Blade Brand them out. We should actually math out our next turn here. So assume we hit a land. So we go up to 6 lands. We don't get to play Salvager in that case, because we need this in play to beat Grasping Thrall. I think I should take Juggler, though. I think it's correct. It's unfortunate, but it's correct. And we'll take 2 off Martyr of Dusk. That's fine. So we know all the actions. We'll just do this, and then we'll skip through blockers. Ah, toll. I don't want toll. This is the stage of the game where we just don't want toll. Actually, you know, I want both. I don't want both of these cards. I'm trying to think because the 1/1 is actually good here, and if this is a legitimate card, this becomes an excellent play because we get the nice 2-for-1. Our 1/1's on the ground. It stalls out everything. Let's take a risk here. This is a little greedy, and I don't like keeping murder, but at the same time, I think this is better. And then we get to so this was an excellent play. We get to do everything we wanted to do, and then we get to Blade Brand to trade here, and it becomes very simple. How sad. So we lost one of our secrets, which doesn't really matter. And we'll cycle this. People never expect Blade Brand. It's a card that they think is just from Limited, and they don't see it as a constructed card. And they're right, for the most part. Where am I at? 1, 2, 8. I think I'm just going to do this because of how strong it is right now. I actually kind of want to sit and get full value out of our zombie token. We take a little bit of extra damage here, but I don't see that being an issue. I would rather kill Alblark, and then I would like to kill your token here, or your whatever. Yeah, this way you'll find that actually having the 1/1 is better than having the 2/2. And this was probably why I was playing so many. Oh gosh, I can't remember this card, and that's embarrassing, as I love this card. I think it's Thopter Engineer is the correct name for it. And I'm gonna try and draw some cards. If they drew a removal spell, that'll obviously be costly, but looks like we're good. But it was from I think M19, and it was a 1/2 for blue and 2 that built a Thopter. Yeah, they're realizing they just can't grind us out. And now they just continue having trouble as we decide that we're going to just keep playing. Grab recover. This is usually where people will concede, just because we're up 5 to 6 cards. There's nothing they can do, and I almost want to start attacking, but I'm going to give it one more turn, and I'll probably use something on them. Yeah, I think my most interesting victory was previously being at like 1 or 2 and then beating a mono white deck from 50. Took a long time, but the deck isn't very good. I would not be playing white in this format right now, except there might be a birds deck that works, but I don't think it has any payoffs right now is the problem. See, if you had uncommons, you'd have Rally of Wings, and you can set up a turn 4 kill or whatever, but white is I think, one of the worst colors. There's some interesting cards that got printed in Jumpstart, including a dog that recurs artifacts or enchantments, but I don't think that deck is quite where it needs to be yet. I think I'm going to wrap up after another game or two, though, as there are other things to be doing. I'm on the play. I've got 3 good cards. We got some lands. It's fine. Oh, well, this will probably be the last game. Anyone who starts on Dimir Guildgate usually means business. There's nothing they can play on the correct number, so they're either going to syncopate me or... I like 2-mana counterspells as much as the next person. I don't think Quench is good in this format. I think too many games go long. At this point, we're just going to sit here and play Drago. Really? Thirst for Meaning. I've toyed with playing Thirst for Meaning. I could just never find a deck that played enough enchantments at this stage. I think especially once we hit Amonkhet Remastered and that gets added with the cartouches, I think that all of the cartouches are very playable. Since this game will be long, I guess I'll take a moment and talk about Amonkhet for a minute. Wizards is releasing that in a little less than a week right now on Arena, and it's going to be a combination of the set. So we're not sure if stuff is downshifted or exactly what's going to happen. I think I'm going to try and deck them. I'm sorry that that seems so boring to everyone, but hopefully you'll find kind of an old school traditional, mirror to be interesting. I'm not sure what they're doing. I think that they might be some like homebrew blue black hexproof deck. So let's try that. So anyway, Amonkhet. I think that the major cards that I'm looking forward to or think will have an impact on the format. I don't want Recover. I think we can do that. I don't want Recover. I really just want lands. We'll shuffle it in later with Devious Cover Up. So, and we'll search for some lands because I'm not going to play Secrets yet. It's not worth it. We'll play a land this next turn, and then the turn after we'll have 6 mana, so we'll be able to play both Secrets and Toll. Sorry, I always call it Toil. Anyway, from Amonkhet, the cards that I think are interesting are Benefaction of Ronus, as that's the green and 2 sorcery that you get you look at the top 5 and then you get an enchantment and or a creature. I think that's going to be big for the hexproof decks. And you put them in your hand. So having a draw 2 that gets 2 very relevant cards is going to be good. They don't have a high creature count, but they need more cards that help them get creatures. I don't think the Thirst for Meaning is where they want to be. It's a good card, but you don't get enough cards. You want the raw 3 cards when you can get it. And I like instant speed though. I imagine they're probably playing a ton of counterspells, which is going to be really annoying. I think Deliverer's Descent is going to be good as another flexible cycling answer, as you can see from Memory Leak and from Suffocating Fumes that I'm playing. Forsake the City, again, it's going to be nice to have something that I can actually deal with enchantments and artifacts that cycles. I think that's going to give decks answers to Illigan Inheritance and others that are going to be important. So this is actually a little unfortunate. If you're playing Omen of the Sea and you're playing Ill-Gotten Inheritance, it makes this card a lot worse. And that's going to be trouble. Hieroglyphic Illumination is also going to be really good. Having the flexibility on the 1 slot versus an instant speed draw 2 is going to be really nice. We've been missing something like that. Let's see, what else? Renewed Faith also caught my eye when I was looking through the original set list. Oh, they've decided they want this. How many good cards do they have is the question. I think I want to fight them. There's very few times you need to decide to fight, but this is a good time. We don't want to get it exiled because we can incur it, and we want to see what they're cooking with. They're cooking with Soul of the Rapids. So they're going to think, we gotcha. So Soul of the Rapids is actually a card I think is terrible. I think it's just absolutely horrible. I've seen a ton of people try to play it, but I don't think that it's where most decks want to be, at least against another good blue-black deck. The reason for that is, quite simply, just Freakus Libation. That there's too many good answers to this, and it also just doesn't battle well. When blue-black, you're supposed to be the control deck. Oh, you get to do this. Yeah, I screwed that up. That was my mistake. They only have 1 more soul. That was unfortunate. I forgot, just in my mind, that they make a guy. So we will... Doesn't matter how I stack this. So... That was sloppy of me, though. I should have either memory leaked them first, because then if they decide to, I can have a better set of choices. We should still be fine, though. But anyway, as I was saying about Soul of the Rapids being a bad card, it doesn't... it doesn't fight, and that's something you need for blue black. You need a deck. You need a card in your deck that fights, and a 3 mana or a 5 mana 3/2 just doesn't battle. Most of the things are 2 power X1s in the format, or 2 power 2/2, or just 2/2s. So it's not something that does really well in that slot, and that's why I'm playing things like Salvager, which do block and do play that kind of control game that you need to be playing. Alternatively, you're playing Aven Eternal, which lines up really well against Soul of the Rapids. So we're going to try and get some cards here. Doesn't seem like they're on a lot of counter spells right now, but I will take a minute out of my busy day here to memory leak them, just because I don't have anything else to be doing. And next turn we'll start salvaging, and we should be fine. I think also the reason is this deck ends up just being a much worse version of the hexproof decks. Just because Soul of the Rapids is so much slower, you don't gain a lot by being in this control mode and having Soul as your kill condition. Just because it doesn't kill very fast, it gets blocked by everything in the air, and there are a number of flyers in this format. And also, I don't see them playing any libations, so I don't think that they're prepared for what the format looks like. So this is where I wish we had Recover, but it's fine. We're just going to go grab Secrets, and we're going to count to 10. That's our strategy here. I think we haven't shuffled, yeah, so we're going to have to get to that sooner or later. So we're at 4, 8, 9. Any lands is 10, and we're just going to jump ahead of them. See, their deck should be really playing Secrets. It's much better than Tamiyo's Epiphany, even though Scry 4 is very good. Card quantity often beats card quality in this format right now. Unless you're really trying to dig, and then 4 mana is a lot of mana to be spending on trying to draw cards. That's why I like Hieroglyphics, because you get to hold up counter spells. Alright, so they get their soul. That's fine. I'm willing to let them sit on Soul of the Rapids for a little bit. I'm just going to draw Devious Cover-Up to make sure that we've got some answers. And they unfortunately can have counter spells for this, but it's fine. I will go grab Libation. That way we can threaten at any time that they decide that they're going to tap out. And we don't mind taking a little bit. This is where you'll see that it just really doesn't matter what this card is doing. And I can sit back until my turn and then play Libation if I need to. So now they kill my guy, but life doesn't matter for them either, so that's like a little early to be spending mana. They've got 2 cards. I think both of them need to be counter spells for them to survive this. I am going to main... I don't want to main phase this. No, I do want to main phase it. Do I? This is the interesting question. So I've got 8 mana. 3... I don't think I want to main phase this. What I want to do is just play an Omen of the Sea, and then I want to upkeep them. Because I want to hit a land if I can hit one. And I don't need the life, so we'll just take the untapped mana. And we've got the perfect amount of mana here. Let's see what they've got. If they're sacking these things, it doesn't matter. The other reason that it's really hard to resolve this is in any mirror where it actually matters, that Essence Scatter is just too strong. I can see that they're trying to be a little bit fancy by just making a 5/4 hexproof lifelinker, which is going to be very hard for a lot of decks to race. But it's not going to go anywhere is the problem. I think you need diversified low to the ground threats for the most part. I'm at 10, so I'm just going to hold. Sorry, I really hate Soul of the Rapids because I've seen far too many people try and play it and they think it's good. All right, and we'll get a creature on the board and we still have counterspells up. The other reason I like Toll is because it makes a 1/1 for our Blade Brand, which is really critical in some matchups. And it's something that people never see coming. I've tried thinking about how many memory leaks versus tolls I want, and I think that 2 toll is correct because it provides enough cards. X is 5. We have 4. I don't care enough to fight over this. They probably don't have any relevant cards. They're just doing that because I would have taken Syncopate and gotten a 1/1. Okay, so we have the City's Blessing now, and I don't think that they're playing any deck that has a bunch of crazy flash threats. At this point, we're just digging. I will take the time to play the Skeleton Archer. Normally I wouldn't, but there isn't really anything going on, and they're not going to manufacture any creatures that I care about. So I'm going to make them spend the cards and get a better understanding of what they're doing. They might deck themselves, as we discussed at the beginning. Like, it's a very real possibility that we just decide to deck them if we can't beat them. One of the tricks in this mirror is you have to make sure that you don't get your Devious Cover-Up exiled, because it's your only way to keep the game alive. I decided that it was better not to play any Clear the Mind, just because Clear the Mind is so dead in a lot of situations. They go 4 bottom. So end of turn, we'll crack Omen of the Sea. That's fine. So right now we've got a pretty heavy mana advantage, and I would be willing to bet that our cards in hand are better, as Essence Scatter is going to be a good answer to the Soul of the Rapids. We'll just take a cancel and keep playing. This is where we hit the beautiful and terrible Drago mirror for blue-black. But our threats are going to be a little more diverse than theirs. And it doesn't look like they're on Ill-Gotten Inheritance, so we don't have to worry about that. We can just focus on what else they're doing. Game ends in about 15 turns, I'd say. Thanks for sticking with me if you're still here, as I know that you've seen a lot of draw-go control mirrors in one way or another for this. So bottom, so they've put 4 to the bottom. One thing that I really wish for Arena, and they went top-bottom, is that they'd actually show you which ones are known by the opponent. Or do they? Is that a little symbol? No, it's just part of the artwork. Yeah, we're just going to keep playing. There's no reason. The reason you play the lands is because of how many cards you draw when you chain your secrets into each other. Oh, they are playing it. Oh. I think this is a good time for us to fight with Devious Cover-Up, because now we want to put both Salvagers back into the deck. We want the secrets in the deck, and we want cancel. And we've got a cancel to back it up. That's important. I don't think that they have 2 counterspells, and they're playing Syncopates, which, when we're heavily ahead on mana, are so much worse. So, okay, they're conceding that, and I think we're going to call it right now. I'm sorry that some of the matchups were a little fast when they conceded, but that's typically how it goes. I wish that Wizards would bring this back a little more often. I love this format. I think this is probably my favorite format on Arena right now. It's very simple in a lot of ways. It's defined by card advantage. It's defined by a really tall threat. It's not defined by anything really complex. It's defined by just good, solid magic. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment. I'd be delighted to chit-chat about Historic Pauper. Hopefully we can develop a community over time and see if we can encourage them to let us play this a little bit more and hopefully play some events. I'd highly recommend this deck. I think that it is the best deck in Pauper right now. You'll notice that I have a sideboard for this deck. This sideboard is mostly in relation to what I think I might play in the future. And you can find this in the description below that I'll have a link to the deck list if you want to export this into Arena. I do think this is the best deck in Arena for Historic Pauper just because it can answer all of the different threats. It occasionally, just like anything, will have some bad games, but I think over time, if you play enough games with it, you're going to see that you're winning somewhere between 65 and 75% of your games against every single deck. And I don't think there's another deck out there that can make that claim right now. There's too many coin flips where the stock green-white hexproof deck will run into itself, and then it's just luck of the draw. Whereas this, you're almost never going to run into another copy of this. And all the other copies of it, as you saw, are going to be worse in some respect because they're not trying to be as grindy. And this isn't even the most grindy version of the deck. If you'd like a little bit of a treat here, we can go over and this is the grindiest version of the deck that I have. And you'll notice that it's making sure it's got Ill-Gotten Inheritance. It still has other answers, but it's just much heavier on counter spells. I don't know why Thirst for Meaning is in this deck. I think I haven't updated this one in a little while. Looks like it's a couple sets old. But the bottom line is you have Negate. You're much more based on trying to fight a control mirror with 3 Devious Cover Up and Clear the Mind. As in a control mirror, nothing matters except for the unkillable threats, such as Ill-Gotten Inheritance. I believe this was probably built before Frika's Libation, when it was just like a straight kill when you had Ill-Gotten Inheritance. It was whoever had more, that person won. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you around at some point, and feel free to hit me up on Twitter. Bye for now.